Yesterday, we had a Twitter poll asking you if you'd rather holiday at home this year, holiday abroad, or just skip the holiday altogether. The results are 51% holiday at home, 21% holiday abroad, and 28% no holiday. And this morning, one tweeter, Des, tells us, I voted holiday at home, but when I checked the prices, I would reverse that vote to no holiday. Good luck with those prices. Rip Off Ireland is back big time. Well, Eoghan Corry is back big time, editor of Air and Travel magazine. Eoghan, good morning.
Good morning, Pat. Yeah, Lanzarote 55.92, Mallorca 46.93, Algarve and Barcelona 34.99. That's the sort of stuff the airlines are throwing at us to get us flying again. So it's a big question is, will price break down the resistance and the nervousness about flying?
Yeah. Now, the news from Ryanair this morning is that for new bookings, in other words, people who might be a bit nervous that we'll have a surge and that various markets might close down and therefore booking their holiday via Ryanair would be a waste of money, basically, because often the prices are greater than the cost of a new ticket. So, it makes nonsense of it. But they've waived those prices for new bookings.
Waived the prices for new bookings. That's pretty much a first. There is a policy that if you've already booked, as a lot of people had for July and August, there is a change fee waiver, and that applies for both Ryanair and Aer Lingus. But to do it for new bookings suggests that they're not getting the uptake that they expected. They're putting 40% of the fleet in the sky for the month of July, 60% in August, 80% in September. The load factors, they're not, they were saying that they couldn't predict them because they expect a lot of the July bookings, especially with the uncertainty, particularly about the 14-day self-isolation when you return to Ireland. They were not sure how that would work, but it does suggest they want to prod the market a little bit more. It may have been pre-planned, or it may be that the uptake isn't as strong as they expected. You're never really quite sure with Ryanair.
Now, Eoghan, tell us who's flying and who's not, who's kind of leaping into the market and who's not.
Interestingly enough, we have a lot of people who flew all the way through the crisis. I think Qatar Airways need a lot of credit, particularly in the repatriation game, because they kept their Doha flights going right through all of this. Aer Lingus have transatlantic flights to Chicago, Boston and New York. But what will happen over the next few weeks is we've two key dates, Pat. 15th of June is when the borders come down. The entry restrictions into almost all the European countries come to a halt. That's under an EU Commission plan by Margherita Skinas that was announced a couple of weeks ago. But we will see all the other airlines coming in. They were all talking about July. The one who was brave and bold and said July the 1st, lots of planes in the sky, 1,000 flights a day were Ryanair. But interestingly enough, people like Air Canada are coming in on July the 2nd. American Airlines are coming in on July the 8th, back to their Dublin service. Delta we're still waiting on. I'd expect that to happen this week. Then some of them moved a little bit forward. I noticed Turkish are resuming Istanbul on June the 24th. Emirates announced that they are resuming June the 17th. You can't get into the UAE. They will all be transfer traffic. And Etihad, who were to start on July the 1st, they've moved forward to June the 10th. So what we've had is a convergence around those two key dates. June the 15th, D-Day for Europe, borders opening again, and July the 1st was Ryanair Day, but there's now a lot of other airlines for that week as well.
All right. So the question is, will people opt to fly or will they be a bit too nervous? You saw our poll there that 51% are opting for home holidays. 21% are saying they will, take their courage in their hands and fly somewhere. So we shall see how all of that evolves with price, because the tweeter is saying, I looked at the prices for home holidays and I changed my mind, no holiday, because I simply can't afford to holiday at home. And that's an interesting thing. If people are gouging, knowing that there's an appetite for holidays and they want to make up for lost bookings, so they up the prices.
Price will have to be part of the home holiday product, but it must be said that the home holiday deserve a lot of credit. They were looking forward, or they were keyed up for a later opening, and that's come forward a little bit for hotels, and they're working very, very hard to get product up and running, and they deserve an awful lot of support. What they will have to factor in is exactly what your tweeter said. The appetite for the airlines to try and get any sort of traffic back is going going to be driven by price. That worked before after big disasters like the global financial recession and 9/11. People were nervous about flying and price broke down that nervousness. Not so sure it's as clean this time. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, there is going to be no social distancing on aircraft. The middle seat debate has been finished. The middle seats will be filled. The aviation people say the HEPA air filters bring the air quality to hospital theatre standard, but there's also issues of social distancing in the airport, to and from the airport. So lots of nervousness there, and whether that will be overcome by the sort of prices people are talking about. There's also what happens when you go out there. Different countries unlocking at different rates. Portugal has been very clean through all of this, and it has a very coherent policy. Spain has done a great job in catching up, but you will have to wear masks on aircraft, and there will be inhibitions like that on the travel. And whether people will park that nervousness all remains to be seen. But finally, there is our own government. Simon Harris was tweeting at the weekend saying we're not ready for non-essential travel yet. And very importantly, the Department of Foreign Affairs still bans non-essential travel everywhere. That means your things like travel insurance don't kick in. There has been talk both by Leo Varadkar and by Heather Humphreys about air bridges that's forming alliances with countries where the restriction might be lifted. We haven't seen that come into law yet, or any sort of how that plan will work. And there's also the 14-day quarantine. It's an unusual situation. It's illegal not to fill out the locator form that you're handed on an aircraft coming into Ireland. It's not illegal to breach the quarantine. But I think the vast majority of people, they're not really going by what's legal and what's not. They want to do what's right under the current circumstances. Yeah. And the government is still nervous about people travelling.
We've lots of questions for you. We'll
yes,
fly
indeed.
through them. I applied for an Aer Lingus voucher on the 3rd of April. Any idea how long it's taking to get them? Are they being processed electronically or manually? If I book another flight now, paying cash now, can I use the vouchers when they eventually come and therefore get a refund in cash? I presume it's booking with Aer Lingus. You'd like to offset the value of the voucher.
The offset, it would probably not be able to offset it against a new transaction that's made now. When you have your voucher, it would be possible to offset it against the new transaction. What I'm uncertain about here is why the voucher is not processed, because the speed of the process of vouchers has increased, and also a key factor is that a voucher or a change of date can be processed by a computer. If a refund is involved, it involves a human from the audit department to look at the process, and there are too few humans and too many refunds to look at. So that's delaying the whole process.
But if they've opted for a voucher, you'd imagine that could be issued electronically and therefore be used. But it obviously hasn't happened yet. And
I wonder about that, and it might be worth going onto Aer Lingus chat to produce the booking reference again and said the voucher hasn't appeared. I do think that's a little bit slow. Ryanair, by the way, are saying refunds in 10 weeks. That's Aer Lingus haven't given us a date on refunds, but Ryanair came out last week and said they'll all be done in 10 weeks.
Okay, we'll try and do these quickly. I've booked a flight for Canada in July. Currently, all flights cancelled until June 30th. Not going. I don't feel safe enough. Thinking more of a refund than anything. Is that the best thing? They're going in July when flying will have resumed, so no refund.
No refund. There is a possibility of a date change because airlines have waived their strict terms and conditions on that because of nervousness. But there's a key metric here, Pat. If you decide to pull out because you're nervous, it's your problem. If the flight gets cancelled, it's the airline's problem. They have to either get you where you want to go or give you a voucher or a refund. But if you pull out because you're nervous, it's not a good enough reason to get your money back.
Laurie says, we usually fly to Paphos in the south of Cyprus.
Wonderful,
and then we go over the border to the
North Cyprus.
When can I go? Is it open?
It's North Cyprus is a total of 4 fatalities, I think, since the outbreak of this. So they've had a very, very good record through it. They did close the border early in the process, but I think it's part of the June the 15th reopening. Getting across from Paphos shouldn't be a problem. It used to be impossible. There is another alternative way going in through Istanbul, and Turkish are flying again from June the 24th, but I don't see a problem coming across with Paphos if it's in July. Did she give you a date for that, Pat?
Let me just check on the date in July. No, not a precise date.
I think it should be okay, yeah.
And another one, we have a holiday booked for Greece July 8th. Flights are with Ryanair. We paid for our hotel separately. Ryanair hasn't cancelled the flights yet, but a do not fly government travel advisory still exists. We have travel disruption as part of our travel insurance. So when can we claim on the policy?
If your travel disruption was taken out before March 15, you can claim on that policy. The question is the backlog that the insurance companies and the 3 big underwriters who sell the insurance are dealing with.
We booked for a week in Sardinia, 21st of July. We're optimistic about travelling. The one thing that would stop us is quarantine period upon return. Some clarity regarding our obligations would be helpful.
As I say, it's not illegal to breach the quarantine. It's illegal not to fill out the locator form. Quarantine will be up for review around June the 18th. The rest of Europe is very unhappy with it, but they haven't really focused on the Irish one. The English introduced one this week, and most of the ire is thrown into that. There's been a reciprocal ban by France, for instance. I would expect the Irish government to look at the quarantine and probably work out that there are better ways of keeping our country safe.
I booked flights with Aer Lingus to Perpignan, a family of 5, July 21st, but due to COVID-19, we do not feel it's safe to travel. I can change my flights for free, but I want to change to summer of 2021. These flights are not yet available. What are my options? That's from Declan.
A big problem. Ryanair have loaded summer 2021. Aer Lingus haven't done so yet. They say they're in the process of doing so. It's a technical issue. I would wait as close to the date before changing and see if we can get to summer 21. But as it stands, summer 2021 inventory is not in the system.
This one, my family of 5 are booked with Aer Lingus to fly to Boston, 30th of June. DFA says avoid travel. Should I fly? And if not, can I get a refund of the 2.6k I paid for the flights? That's from Michael in Dublin.
Aer Lingus are sending people in that situation to the insurance company. They say the flight is still flying. It's not our problem. The reality is you can't get in. You can't get past the US immigration in Dublin airport to get to America. It's one of the biggest holes in the system, the consumer rights system, that has been exposed by this, and I would expect it to be sorted out in time, but at the moment it's back to the insurer, and the insurer mightn't cover you unless you've got flight disruption.
This one about the passport office. When will it be back in operation? I applied to have my passport renewed electronically over the weekend, but the website indicates there is no staff available to process. They're all redeployed due to the pandemic. I was hoping to get away for a holiday in mid-August. That's Willie in Galway. So any news on when they'll reopen?
Redeployed for other purposes. Simon Coveney said in the Dáil last week, from the middle of this week, we'll see the electronic processing going back into action. I'm not sure how much human intervention is possible, or will there be a backlog on the electronic? And of course, it'll take a little bit of while to get everything posted out. But the An Post weren't accepting the posted applications until this week anyway.
All right, well, so many questions coming in, many of them along the same lines. If you cancel, you don't get a refund. If they cancel, you do. That's the bottom line.
In one line, Pat, you have it.
All right. Yeah, great stuff. Owen, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Pat. Thank you very much.